Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I could just invite you to take a seat, make yourself comfortable. We're due for a 6 o'clock kickoff. Welcome to everybody. My name's Matt Nott. I'm the Director of Corporate Communications with the Local Health District. Big welcome to you all. A little bit of housekeeping. Exits out there, washrooms out there, stairs back down. Same way you came in. Tonight's a very special night for us because not only is it our annual public meeting, but we've repositioned our thinking about what we do with this meeting. It's required that we, as part of transparency and accountability, present in to the community about how our performance has been and what our strategic direction is on an annual basis. To make it more engaging, to have the opportunity for more consumer input and observations that we can learn from, we're live streaming for the first time. So that's going out to the universe from our team over here on your left-hand side. So if you have any social media questions that you'd like to put to us during the night, I'll provide you with some details around that. If you have a look on your seats, or you've probably got it in your laps now, there's quite a bundle of material there. The Royal Easter Show bags have nothing on us. You've got in there a variety of documents that will be integrated into tonight's presentations. There's a small single pager that provides you just with some factoids to give you a sense of the scope and complexity of our business. There's also a single page that provides a really condensed overview of our health services plan that will be subject to some reporting, an official launch by our Chief Executive tonight. You'll also see our year in review, and a lot of the information that's put forward to you tonight will reflect and provide a nice echo of the fleshed out content in the year in review. So welcome everybody, we'll kick off. The evening, I'll point out, is also going to be live tweeted tonight. So for those people who wish to follow us online, we go to our Western Sydney Facebook page. You can also provide questions to us as the event is underway, and during our question and answer panel session at the back end, we'll endeavour to run through all of those. Now, if you're somebody who likes tweeting, we have a hashtag specially designated for this evening. It's #WestSydHealthForum. Wi-Fi instructions, we'll bring those up on the screen for you. Rooty Hill has free Wi-Fi. So access to the Wi-Fi, you've just got to make sure your Wi-Fi setting is on. Select West HQE events, and then enter the password WHQ events. By way of opening up the formal proceedings, I would like to acknowledge some VIPs who are with us tonight or scheduled to arrive. Dr. Jeff Lee is on his way. Mark Taylor, member for Seven Hills. Dr. Jeff Lee, the member for Parramatta, of course. Mark Taylor, member for Seven Hills. John McGaughty, who is the publisher of News Local, that operates the stable of newspapers that provides a journalistic voice for Western Sydney. Western Sydney Board Chair Richard Alcock, board members Professor Jeremy Chapman, Professor Di O'Halloran, and our newest appointee to the board, Adam Stewart. Congratulations on your appointment, Adam. Also our Acting Chief Executive, Graham Loy, and members of the Western Sydney Local Health District Executive Team. Also a big welcome to everybody online, and welcome to those people who are in the audience with us tonight. We do have a couple of apologies. The Honourable Brad Hazzard, Health Minister, he's an apology, but he has contributed a video that we'll show you. Tanya Davies, Minister for Mental Health for Mulgoa, also is an apology. Hugh McDermott, the member for Prospect, is an apology. Kevin Connolly, Elizabeth Coff, New South Wales Health Secretary, Walter Comet, and he's Went West CEO, the Public Health Network, and Professor Laurent Rivery, the University of Sydney Pro Vice Chancellor of Research. They all send their best regards. Now I would like to invite Aboriginal Elder, Uncle Greg, to our microphone here on the side to perform Welcome to Country for us. Good evening, Uncle Greg.
I would like to say, start off saying good evening to all. Good evening. I'll tell you what, I'll be glad when I get this bloody hip replaced. It's terrible. I'll be a young man again, like when I get my new hip. And I would like to say, what a me, Medicat Godam Barak. Hello, friends. It's good to see you. My name's Greg Sims. Everyone knows me as Uncle Greg. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge we are on Darug land. I would like to acknowledge the elders past and present. We don't own the land owns us. We come from Mother Earth. We are the land. And the land we're upon today belongs to the Wiana Maragal tribe of the Darug Nation. Where I fit in, I come from the Gadigal tribe of the Darug, which is based in Sydney. We are the Whale people. Also, I would like to acknowledge that I belong to the Gundin Gutta Nation in the Blue Mountains also, where I belong to the Water Dragon Lizard people. And I am one of the Aboriginal elders of Western Sydney, and to become an elder you have to do lots and lots of work in your community before you get respect in return. And we as elders, we go out and teach how to break down barriers and build bridges. We're out in the community trying to turn people's lives around. Because where we live today is one community, many cultures. And one of the main things I do out in the community is that I support Muslim communities within the Sydney-based area. And it's honoured to be an elder of Western Sydney, and I'm also an elder on the advisory committee at Western Sydney University, where there are 23 of us. And sharing all our values and stories, it's wonderful because it gives you that chance to share the stories with everyone. And myself, coming from the eastern shores of Botany Bay, a place called La Perouse, where I grew up on the eastern shores of the eastern shores of Botany Bay, we're on a mission, where my elders taught me well. They taught me always show respect, acknowledge. Never be greedy, and always share. Today I live that life. And the old people said to me, take these values and stories into the next generation and share. So when I made my trek out this way in 1985, because I promised this woman that I wanted to marry her in 86, and we got married on the 29th of March, 86. But coming out here with my saltwater culture and sharing that with a diverse of Aboriginal people, living between Blacktown and Penrith, where we have well over 85 different dialects. Here I am sharing my saltwater culture with the running water people and the muddy water people. But it doesn't stop there, because our values and stories belongs to all Australians. So I just like to say that we come into the circle, we learn so much in that circle because we're sharing our values and stories. And once we learn from each other, then we're heading towards reconciliation. And I remember my auntie Susie used to say, the music will always sound better if we use both the black and white keys. And I think it's a beautiful saying. And where we live today, as I was saying, it's one community, many cultures. But I'd just like to say this, that doing all this health work in our communities, I would like to see more Aboriginal people facilitating these meetings along with non-Aboriginal people, because we need to have a two-way street, not a one-way street, a two-way street, so try and make things work. And I've got to say this, I'm trying to get a special date put on a yearly calendar, maybe 3-4 times a year, a special event. And the special event I'm looking at is the VIP Day. And the VIP stands for the Village Idiots Picnic Day. And Scott Cam said to me, he said, Uncle Greg, you get that going and I might come along and support you on that. So if we get this up and running, we can make something out of it. But anyways, thank you for having me. I would like to acknowledge all the distinguished guests that's with us this evening. I would like to acknowledge a dear friend just walked in. I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Dr. Jeff Lee, State Member for Parramatta, and all you wonderful people that's here this evening, because this is very important, the health thing. And I think the only way we can get back into health, stop cutting all our trees down. Because they cut all the trees down, there's going to be another cancer going to appear. So everything different comes up every time we cut trees down. So what we've got to do is think about these things. So it's scary stuff. But anyways, I'm going to give the welcome. But before I do, I would like to say one more thing, is that when we take our next step, just remember the ones that walked this sacred land before. Tiari mara, daraka pemo, kawi mari apemo na galaringa babona. By name of Waranang, no desi guy, Diana Gammon Yadalang, the galaringa tiari, the galariga, the gami guy, Gully within gonna gal, da gonna gal. Dala lawi mukat bala nagami. This a law in a three gonna gal. Jammy tiari the galariga jovana. Midiga garang barak nina daraka pemo. There we go. This is Darak land, it's the land of ancestors. The spirits that walk among us. Spirits that have been here since the dream time. Our lands and our culture have been passed down from generation to generation to continue an unbroken culture that has extended for thousands of years. In the language of our people, we welcome you to Darak lands. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks very much, Uncle Greg. Thoughtful, insightful as always. I'd now like to invite up to our little performance area, Karina. Karina is a proud Darug woman, and we're getting two for the price of one with her tonight. She's brought along a young companion to assist, and Karina's going to provide us with an insight into the wonderful musicality of the Darug tongue with some performance in Indigenous language.
Warami walamabami, Darug nurawa, Dijadigura mujin naraya. I'll get some assistance here. Didgeridoo Guwan for that beautiful welcome as well. I might need you to just lift us up a little bit. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Trying to manoeuvre with little Eli here. Yeah. My name is Karina. I'm from the Kanamagau Wumuli clan here on Darug Nation. I also have ties to Darawal on my grandfather's side. You can hear an accent there too. My mother's Māori, Te Atianoia Paparangi from New Zealand. So with the blessing and the union of my family, so I'm truly Indigenous, not only to this country but also New Zealand. I come here today to share with you some of our songs. To accompany Uncle's welcome, I'd like to welcome you to country with one of our danguras. This song basically is welcoming you to country firstly and foremost, giving honour to Mother Earth and Father Sky and the light that our old people bring in. So it's about our ancestors as well, because we believe our old people are with us always. And they give us our health and well-being too when we're listening to them as well. Warami narana gawurana walama naluma yaunun mujani ngura bamu wianga choo choo burabianga choo choo Mamari andangili, gambi gurangili, ha ha, 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 ha. Woo! Ma mariandangili, kawi gurangili. Ma marararura dalang marua nawala marua jangun mujani ura. Bamu wianga, chu, chu. Burabianga, chu, chu. Mamariandangili, gambi gurangili. Ha, 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 ha. Choo! Didgerikura. Our next song is about spirit, and I understand this is a house forum, and like I mentioned, our connection to Mother and Father Sky and everything in between is really important for our mob and all mob across Australia. This particular song was written a long time ago when we were looking at how we could bring and heal spirit on the Blacktown Native Institution side. So with that said, this song is about those children that we believe are still there, and it's also about our healing as well through song and dance. This song's called Nula Gumara. We feel that our ancestors live and breathe, they sing and dance with us, and are here, there, everywhere. So this is dedicated to those children. Nara Gumara, Nala Bioni Gumara, Nula Gumara, Dijari Gura Gumara, Baraya Gumara, Dangura Gumara, Jagara Gumara, Ngubare Gumara, Ngara Gumara, Nala Bioni Gumara, Nula Gumara, Dijari Gura Gumara, Baraya Gumara, Dangura Gumara, Jagara Gumara, Ngubare Gumara, Ngubare Gumara. I'm not sure if you know, but that special place called the Blacktown Native Institution site, we now have back in Darug hands. So we had the handover about 2 or 3 weeks ago, didn't we, Uncle Greg? And so that's been returned back to Darug country, and I've just seen another beautiful person that I know that was there too. Now the next song that I'd like to share with you is a really beautiful song called the Digging Stick Song. This has been handed down, this particular song, and it's for our women. The song is about going out, if you could imagine, and digging for yams or food and collecting berries. And it also represents a cycle for the woman. And so I'm sure women here tonight can agree about the cycle that we have, and which brings in reproduction of our children as well, and the birth of our children. So this particular song, I won't sing the whole way through because it gets repeats a cycle, but I'll share with you some of it. So I'd like to pay respects to my Guwan, Uncle Stu McMinn, for this song and sharing with you today. Miragan gune, Gaupangune, Gaupangune, Miragangune, Miragangune, Gaupangune, Gaupangune, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, choo! Miragangune, Miragangune, Gaupangune, Gaupangune, Miragangune, Miragangune, Gaupangune, Gaupangune, ha ha, 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 choo! It's a bit hard with the baby singing. Just realised, because he's one now, that he's, he moves a lot. Anyway, Didgeridoo, thank you. Just before I leave, I just want to say Yano before I leave, and just share with you one more, which is farewelling myself to you. So it goes, Yanamunyana Yora Nora, Yanamunyana Yora Nora, Yanamunyana Yora Nora, Yanamunyana Yora Nora, Yanamunyana Nurumpa, Yanamunyana Dangura, Brua, 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 Choo, Yanamunyana Nurumpa, Yanamunyana Dangura, Brua, 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 Kuku, Didgeridoo Yano.
Thank you, Karina. I think, Karina, you've got another very talented performer on your hands there. Keen to get his hands on the microphone. I'd like to come now into a different sort of message from our Health Minister, the Honourable Brad Hazzard. He sends a video message and his regards to the people with us tonight and also those who are watching us on the live stream.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Western Sydney Health Forum. Whether you're here tonight actually taking part in our forum, or whether you're at home on the streaming that we're making available this time, I just want to say welcome and thanks so much. So I want to start by just saying thank you to each and every one of the staff. No matter what you're doing in our health facilities, there's about 100 of them across this local health district. I want to say thanks. We're all here for the patients, and some of you at home are patients, some of you who are here tonight are patients, either have been or will be. I want to thank the staff for looking after you, but I also want to thank you for just taking part and letting us share ideas tonight, because that's what makes a really good, positive outcome for a growing health district. We've got about 946,000 people currently living in the Western Sydney Local Health District across a number of different council areas. But of course, through to about 2031, we're expecting that's going to pick up to close to about 1.3 million people. It is where people want to be. There's a lot of facilities, a lot of services, and it's fantastic that our health district is actually growing in the way that reflects the population. To each and every one of you, tonight is an opportunity to, as I said, share ideas. But as we go forward, as we actually build our new facilities, there will be much more to do. I think most of you would know we're spending about $1 billion at the moment just on Westmead in an amazing health and education precinct. So as you go forward tonight, just know that I, as your Health Minister, am very supportive of this forum, but also supportive of the work that you're all doing. Look, enjoy the night. Make sure that you not only listen, but also have your say. And again, thank you for taking part in the Western Sydney Health Forum.
Thanks in regards to Minister Hazzard. I'm sure he's online watching us on the live stream now, so send out a shout out to Mr Hazzard. Now I'd like to invite to the stage our board chair, Mr Richard Alcock, who's going to share some strategic insights into our direction.
Thank you. This is one of the most important nights for us as a board and as an executive. It's an opportunity for us to really not only share with you some of the things that we're seeking to do, but as the Minister Hazzard indicated, for you to have your say. The board, represented tonight by Jeremy Chapman, Di O'Halloran, Adam Stewart and Bruce Turner, our former board member, and all of our executive here tonight who will be part of the panel discussion, are here for you. We're appointed by the Minister. It's an obligation that we take very, very seriously. Every day we think about, are we doing our jobs properly? Some days we are, and some days there's scope for improvement. But the one thing that I hope that you all feel is we're here for you. Now we'll have an opportunity to hear your say during the questions, and I hope you ask really hard questions. I know John McGurty from News Local, where are you, John, is very good at asking hard questions. This is not a show, this is your meeting. This is your health district. They're your health and well-being that we're responsible for. And it's a responsibility that we hold very dear to our hearts. And many of you are working very, very hard every day in our workforce and in our consumer councils and in our partnership to improve the health and wellness outcomes for the people of Western Sydney. So thank you for coming tonight. This is your meeting and your say, and we would be very, very pleased to talk to you about anything both during the formal questions and afterwards. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our new Chief Executive, Graham Loy. Graham has been very close to our near neighbours in South Western for a long period of time. He's also been one of the most senior officers within the ministry in North Sydney, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him to speak to you about our strategic direction at his first annual public meeting. Please welcome Graham.
Thanks for that, Richard. And thank you everybody for having me. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the people of the Darug Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And that's something that we're going to drive through the district. It's a really key component of the culture work that we want to do moving forward. I just have to rotate my screen. Technology's let me down already. I'm going to just quickly start off by giving a bit of background for me so you know who I am and why I'm here. Have a little quick chat about quality and safety. I'll get into the formal piece of information that we need to provide, and then I'll just talk about a bit of why we're really here, just to wrap up. So first of all, I've 20 years in the health system. I spent much of that, about 18 years, working in southwestern Sydney, Sydney southwest, which in many, many ways is very, very similar to here. Matter of fact, our direct neighbour, and we share many of our consumers and many of our services, and in actual fact, many of our characteristics. Had a couple of years at the ministry, which gave me the opportunity to understand at a state level what does it mean to provide health services and what is really good across all of the systems, because our rural partners are just as important. We do a lot of work for our rural partners. A lot of people come in from outside our district, and it's really important that we can understand their needs as much as we understand our own. When I got the call and was asked to come out and work out in Western Sydney, I was absolutely delighted. It's a part of Sydney I spent a lot of time in. Before I was in health, I was actually working in Seven Hills for quite a few years, and it's a part of Sydney that I feel reflects the values and the belief systems that I have, and is a really critical part of Sydney. This is actually the heartland of Sydney, if you think about it. Yes, we have all of our friends to the east, and we'll let them think that they are the heartland of Sydney, but in reality they're actually not. All of the hard work, all of the heavy lifting, all the culture and all of the soul that I see of all the people that I come across in Sydney comes out of Western Sydney, the greater Western areas that we all live and work in, and that's fantastic. So it was an absolute joy for me to come out here, and I'm really looking forward to spending a long time out here. One of the key things that, in a conversation that I was in probably 18 months ago, which actually included the Secretary at the time, was about saying, what is the most important thing we do as a health service? And quality and safety is our key deliverable. Yes, we have to worry about finance, and yes, we have to worry about KPIs, and really that doesn't affect many people. That's just some things that the executive and I have to worry about and manage on our contract with the state. But the reality is, the thing that we have to focus most on is quality and safety. How do we do what we do in the best way that we can to the best outcome for everybody that's out there? And if you have a look at the back of the room before you leave this evening, you will see the strength in quality and safety that this district has. What has been put up and accepted as quality awards, and that's what's at the back of the room, is some fantastic ideas, collaboration, effort and commitment of our staff to try and make it better. And I applaud them, and I think it's fantastic that we have so many, many, many good examples for everyone to have a look at. I'll just move into the usual things that we have to talk about. And so just to give you a bit of a context of Western Sydney in the last 12 months, the Minister said 946. I'm sure it's closer to 1 million by now, but you know, we'll let him get away with that. We have the fastest growing community, and we have the most ethnically diverse communities. It's always hard to say. 50% of people are born overseas. 50% of people don't speak English as a first language or a language at home. It creates a huge opportunity for us. And one of the real opportunities in that regard is when we're thinking about things like research and new models of care, we actually get a much broader community and a much broader base to test it out and to understand what that means. And so for us, that gives us a huge opportunity to learn and share and improve the lives of so many more people than if we had a much more narrow mix of people. So the reason why we have probably the strongest interpreter services in New South Wales, and in actual fact a number of the other LHDs around the state use our services, is because of that rich mix that we have. Western Sydney is a diabetes hotspot. I think we all know that. There's a huge part of our population that is either suffering from diabetes or is on the verge of it heading down that pathway, and it's a real key area that we need to work on. And if we can target, hotspots in our community, specific areas to work on that benefit huge numbers of people, that's one of the things that we really need to spend our time doing. There are over 13,000 dedicated, highly committed individuals that work for this wonderful local health district, and it is amazing to see them come to work every day. I've never met anyone who comes to work who is not completely committed to making sure that they can do the absolute best for every patient that comes through the door, whether they work with the patients or not. So it is amazing that the level of commitment and the level of effort that goes in, and I'm not saying we get it right all the time, because we don't, and there's always opportunities to learn, but it is an amazing group of people, and the commitment and dedication is fantastic, and I feel lucky to spend time with them, and I hope the community really feels lucky to have them here, because what they give is amazing. Some of the more mundane things like access and how do we get through our emergency departments and some of the things that we have to report on have improved phenomenally for the year. So if I think about it, and given that I have a lens across the state, about 14% more people go through our emergency departments on time. So that probably means nothing to most people, but what it actually means is 80 people a day, every day of the year, get seen through our emergency departments quicker than they would have done. We get about 526 people a day presenting to our hospitals. So to increase that by 80 a day is a huge uplift, and it is 3 times the improvement of anywhere else in the state. So that's a huge effort. Our financial position has improved. We had some hiccups a couple of years ago. There's been a huge amount of effort go into it in the last 12 to 18 months. and the financial performance has improved significantly. We still have a little way to go, and the reports are available up on our internet website if people want to have a look at them. But the improvement has been phenomenal. It has been a challenge and difficult for our staff, but they have managed to get through it, and there is now an opportunity for us to grow and see how we can take us to the next level. Just a few stats for you. About 500 people a day get admitted to hospital in our local health district. We have about 128 people a day who have surgery completed. We have 29 births a day. So again, we are one of the fastest growing areas for births and one of the fastest growing areas for young families. We do around about 4,000 to 5,000 outpatient services per day across the district. It's a huge number of people that we get through. Over 1.5 million patients a day go through our outpatient clinics. If I can just briefly touch on the redevelopment. So we have, Western Sydney is the central site for Sydney's the three city strategy. It's an enormous opportunity with huge growth and huge economic support that comes along with it. We have a responsibility to pursue excellence in our healthcare, to pursue high quality research, to bring it all together and to make sure that not only are we providing great services for today, but we can come up with the great services for tomorrow, so we're continuing to improve. Part of that is about making sure that we can translate it really quickly and help our patients straight away. Part of that is making longer term investments so we can look to the future and get future generations to a healthier place. We have some really key partnerships in our sector. Local governments, the state public administrators, the Greater Sydney Commission, the Sydney Business Chamber, Transport for New South Wales, Jobs for New South Wales, a number of private health organisations, a couple of universities, a couple of research institutes. There's potential proton therapy facilities. The collaboration that is happening within our Western Sydney precincts, and in particular at the Westmead, is phenomenal. It is miles in front, and in fact years in front of anywhere else in New South Wales at the moment, and it is going to be a beacon for how health systems should be run into the future. We also have on our doorstep and opening in about 8 months' time, an iconic building at Blacktown that has been fantastically built and is well deserved by the people of Blacktown and the surrounding communities. There's been a huge amount of work going over the last 12 months to get that up and running and get it ready. I had the privilege of having a visit and a tour through there with the Minister about a week or so ago, and it is looking fantastic. I've done a lot of building works over the years and been on a lot of sites, and what we will have in Blacktown is going to be fantastic. And so the work that the teams have gone in, and the thousands of staff that work there that not only do their day job, but then go to meetings after hours, before work, to try and make sure we design it so it works really well, has been outstanding. Innovation is a key strength and a key goal for us. We're building an innovation centre on the Westmead precinct. Innovation happens every day in every place that I go to, in every workplace that is out there for us. And that is from just how do we do it more efficiently, how do we get better at it, how do we make less mistakes, how do we work better and treat patients better. That level of innovation right up to the highest level is a constant theme of what we do, and it's a constant thought process in all of our workplaces. And that's really impressive, because you can get caught in the turn and churn of going to work every day, and the fact that our staff are constantly thinking, how can we get better at this, how can our patients have better outcome, is testament to their commitment. We haven't got it perfectly right all the time. We've got a lot of work to do on culture. There's been, as you would have seen over the last week or so, a bit of press around what we do about culture and how we work together to do that. There's a lot in that space that we need to do, and we need to think about how we work better, not just with our patients but with each other. As a community of staff that we work with, we need to reset the bar on what we need to do and how we treat each other, and I think that's going to be really important going forward, because the only way we can get better as deliverers of care is to get better as people who work together. The last thing that I want to say, and it really is a focus for me in my approach to it, and I'll tell you why in a second, is that every single thing we do needs to be done with the patient in the middle. And I know everybody says that, and it's quite easy to roll off the tongue. But it's really critical to understand what that means. It means, yes, people are involved in conversations. It means, yes, that people are there, know what's going on, and that we communicate well. But it also means that people understand what we're talking about. And the example I'll give you is, and it's a personal example of mine, and it was really the tipping point for me about 10 years ago as to why I said, we really need to do this better. So this is my father gets diagnosed with cancer, and we're having all of these tests and meetings, etc., and we go to the penultimate meeting with the oncologist where they tell him that he's got cancer, except for the fact that they didn't tell him he had cancer. They told him he had metastases, right? So we were really good to avoid using the C word all the way through it. And so it's funny, I'm not clinical at all. I have no clinical background whatsoever, but you know what families are like. So everyone looks at me because I work in hospital like I can understand every single thing that happens in a hospital. And I'm a neurosurgeon and I'm a plumber. It's just the way it works out. So I'm in there. They're all looking at me, going, "What's going on?" And we come out of the meeting, and I'm walking my father out to the car, and I say to him, "So, what do you think?" In the back of my head, I'm going, "Oh my God, all right, we've got to deal with this. Okay, what's next?" I said to him, "What do you think? How are you feeling?" He said, "Oh, I'm actually really happy." I said, "Why are you really happy?" He said, "Thank God, I thought I had cancer." That's the problem with the way that we communicate when we don't do it well. And interestingly, not once in 12 months that we walked that journey together did anyone in a hospital use the C word while he was there. And so when I say we want patients in the centre of what we do, I actually really mean that not only are they standing next to us, but everybody understands what we're talking about. And that when we are walking together, we have carers involved, we have family involved, people understand the journey and the discussion. And it's going to take us a long time to get there because we've trained so very, very well to be scientific and technical. We're good at it at the moment. We can be much better at it. And I think that as a community, you need us to be much better at it. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I want to thank everyone for showing up. I really want to thank our staff for all the hard work and their commitment. I want to thank the executive because it was very nice to walk into a team of really highly capable people who very quickly were happy to sit down and have a conversation with me about how we can do things and, can absorb some of my crazy ideas every time I sit down at the table. Really, really, really want to thank all of our volunteers because without the volunteers and our auxiliaries coming in every day and working hard for us, there's a huge gap in what we do. Okay, so that's the first part of it. I'll move now into the launch of the Health Services Plan. Look, it really is a pleasure to launch this plan. There are so many components to it that are critical for what we do. There are some really key themes in what we're trying to work on. I had them all up here on a piece of paper, but someone's knocked it off on me and put it down on the table, so that's okay. No, I'm good, thank you. Our vision for everyone is better health services for the people of Western Sydney and beyond. And beyond means can be read in many ways, not just for today, but into the future, not just for our geography, but for the people who come in and use our facilities and our wonderful services. Our focus is to help people in Western Sydney to get well and stay well. And so one of the goals we need to be thinking about and looking forward to is how do we get closer to people's home? How do we get our healthy neighbourhoods working? How do we only have people coming to hospital who need to come to hospital? And how do we get better at coming to you? The community expectation of healthcare has changed significantly over the last decade, and for this plan goes to 2026, will continue to evolve and grow. Many people prefer to get their care in their home rather than come to us, and there's lots and lots of good reasons for that, and lots of evidence that says it's much better for everyone. The hospitals will always have an important role, and they are critical. They're a huge component of it. How we network our hospitals is equally a critical component of it. So we don't do everything everywhere. We do what we do at each facility very, very well. We're working closely with our key partners. Went West, an absolute key partner. We need to make sure that we are working with our PHNs and being clear. You know, our industry partners, the universities, the TAFE colleges, everyone who's around there, it's really key that we work with them, work with local government, work with the politicians, because that way we get the best that we can for everybody. Growth allocation is always an interesting challenge. Our growth always outstrips our funding, and that's just the reality of the environment that we're in. But the reality for us is we get better and better every day of using the dollars that we get more efficiently and more innovatively, and that actually is a really good thing, because the goal for us is to get as much as we possibly can within the boundaries of what we can do and deliver. Really, really exciting for the district. Happy to continue to transform the way we work. It's one of our constant goals, and we will continue to do that. I encourage everyone to take a copy, have a read of the summary documents that are out there. Would really welcome feedback on the plan, and if there's any ideas or questions, I'm very happy to take them, or for anyone else in the team to sort of get questions as well. So on that note, I think we officially launched the plan, and hand back to Matt.
Thanks very much, Graham. Exciting times with the health services plan. Essentially, it's the way to the future for us, at least a staging point on the way there. A lot of good news in our health district, and a lot of great performance upticks during the last financial year. Now we come to the Western Sydney Health Forum section of the evening. This is an initiative that we trialled last year. It was very strongly supported, was a great feature of the APM. We have a panel of experts who I will momentarily invite to the stage. But first I'd like to call John McGaughty up. John heads up News Local. He's the publisher, and he'll take a central point on the panel. News Local has been a fantastic friend to our local health district, very supportive of our endeavours, but at the same time they've exercised the rigour to hold us accountable when we make mistakes, and mistakes are made. And so we've asked John to provide a level of integrity and probity and accountability to moderate the panel, as he again did last year. And John is a media executive of national standing, so we thank him for his attendance. I'd now like to invite all our panel members. We have a spread of expertise. Anybody who's watching us online, you're also able to submit your questions via our Facebook page or via Twitter. We have our social media guru, Sia, sitting over on the panel there. And in front of John, we have a screen where questions that we harvest in from social media will be put up and answered in real time. If we have quite a torrent of them, anybody watching online, or also people in the audience, if you prefer to put a question through in that fashion, we guarantee for you that we'll get an answer to all your questions, even if we have to take a couple of them on notice. We'll definitely come back and you'll receive written answers to any questions that are submitted, in the event we don't follow them through, unable to get to them tonight, and we have to take them on notice. I'd encourage anybody on the floor, we have some roving microphones. If you'd like to put a question to any of the panel members, or just in general, and the panel members will self-nominate if they believe it falls in their jurisdiction, the answer. And you raise your hand, and the people who are supporting us this evening, they'll bring the microphone around to you. Just a final note on the panel. It's a great opportunity to be able to interact with some very highly skilled and well-informed people to answer your questions. But if you do have any questions that perhaps go to your individual care or those of your family, we just ask that you put those to one side. We don't have the scope within tonight's reach to be able to answer those sorts of questions, but we do have here our Director of Clinical Governance, Luke Sloan. Like to raise your hand, Luke? And Luke's more than happy, if you have questions going to individual care, to have a chat to him afterwards, and he can steer you on the right way to get an answer for those. So without further ado, I would like to invite our noble panel members up to take a seat, and we'll begin our question and answer section. Firstly, the panel members will provide small bios once they arrive, so you know who you're dealing with. Give them a round of applause, everybody.
Hello. Good. Oh, good. There you go. I was always making sure it works. I've already done my bio, so Graham Loy, Acting Chief Executive.
Hello everyone, my name's Sue Ann. I'm the General Manager at Blacktown and Mount Druitt Hospitals.
Hi, Naren Gunja. I'm an emergency physician and Chief Medical Information Officer.
Hi, Beth Cotsey, Director of Mental Health.
Victoria Nazire, Executive Director for Integrated and Community Health.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, one of the junior medical officers at Westmead Hospital at the moment.
Thank you, and thanks once again for Richard and Graham for extending this invitation to News Local. We love to play a major part in advocacy on behalf of our readers, and tonight is a great moment for us to bring readers' questions to this executive group. And I'll start the questions off, actually very easy questions. And so we'll probably get more complicated as we go. But the first question is, Graham, you mentioned 500 patients per day present to emergency, and 80 are seen on time more than this time last year, a 40% uplift. The number one question, which is also on the social media as well as from our readers, what can be done to improve that level of care so that people are seen in a more timely fashion? Is it a resourcing issue, or is it a clinical issue because of the types of issues that people are bringing to the emergency?
Excellent, thank you. So we'll start off with an easy one about how do we fix emergency departments. Look, there are many, many things that we can do and are in actual fact being done across the whole system. Sue-Ann might want to talk about Project Red in a minute, which was a fantastic exercise and example of how, when you think about how you do work, not how many people it needs to do work, you can actually achieve some fantastic outcomes. The 80 people per day uplift that we've had actually didn't come with more resources, it came with different thinking. In actual fact, it's been so successful that there are many other districts around the state that are coming to Blacktown to have a look and find out what they did and how they made it work. So to try and get people through the emergency department, we have to think about a couple of things. We have to think about, we have to actually say people don't need to be there. Just say they need to be there when they do, but we need to get them through as quickly as we can and get them to where they should be. Sometimes that's home, sometimes it's in the community, sometimes it's being admitted. But it's about thinking, what is it that needs to occur in emergency departments and how can we do it really, really well? I guess that's the first one. The second part of it is we have to learn from each other. So whilst a lot of people are coming to Blacktown at the moment to celebrate the success, there are pockets of success everywhere around the state. And if we can look outwards and understand how things are working well, and then see if those models work for us, because nothing is universal and works everywhere the same, then there are huge opportunities for us. So there are times where we can put staff into it, but putting staff into an area is not the answer to actually achieving better flow. Looking at the models and when we do things and how we do things, that's really the answer about it.
Yeah, so our goal really is to get people home as quickly as we can or into a hospital bed if that's what they need. And as we said, there's about 190,000 presentations a year. 2 out of 3 people get to home or to a bed within 4 hours. We'd obviously like to make that an even better number. The way we changed things at Blacktown was really about getting x-rays done much more quickly, making sure we've got plenty of porters on to kind of clean beds and move patients, getting pathology done much more quickly. So it was really about all the things around ED. And so we are really mindful about people staying for extended times. The real result that Project Red delivered at Blacktown was reducing the amount of time people stay in the ED by 90 minutes for every person. So I think that was a great result, but I certainly acknowledge there's still some work to do.
Thank you. The other very easy question, which gets asked every time we ask our readers, what are you doing to improve parking at your facilities? And would you ever consider cheaper parking for long-term patients and their families?
A couple of things. We've built some quite big car parks recently, and in fact at Blacktown and Westmead. We do have parking arrangements for people who are long-term, have long-term visitors to the hospital because they've got a family member with an illness or what have you. So there's, quite generous concessions and lots of things we can do to help people in those circumstances. But I am pleased to say that parking's a lot better than it was.
Okay, thank you. Just before I open up to the floor, one question. We were talking tonight about over 1 million people moving to this area, in the next year. How are you set up to cope with that in the not just for the next 12 months, but setting yourself up for the next 3 to 5 years?
Look, we've been exceptionally fortunate to get very strong support from the state to build new capital and new infrastructure. So if I think about Blacktown, and I talked about it a little bit before, what we're building there is enormous and fantastic and is future-proofed to 2026, I think. Similar to Westmead, it will come online in about mid-2020. Again, we don't build to open to what we need on the day. We build for future capacity for 5 to 10 years past that date. So what that means is when we move into Blacktown in July next year, we don't need to open every bed because we have the capacity within a finite number of what's there. So we have a huge amount of additional capacity being built. But our bigger focus is about how do we keep people out of hospitals. And so the integrated care work that we do is designed about saying how do we treat people closer to home? How do we work better with primary care? How do we work better with the PHN? How do we work better with that and use our community health services better? So we have a real opportunity at the moment to think about what is it that we do and where do we put our funding? Because we have a traditional model in funding that says we get busier, more people come to the emergency department, more people need surgery, all of our growth money goes into the hospitals and we ignore the community. We don't really ignore the community, but it doesn't get the same level of priority as other parts of the organisation does. And that's changed. So I know within Western Sydney that has changed because I've been watching the dollars from the other side of the fence for quite some time. And it needs to continue to change and continue to grow.
I think it's important that as we look into the future, we really do change our models of care, and even starting much, much earlier in the trajectory where we do prevention and try to actually help people not get sick. So healthy lifestyle, healthy environment. The other important area there is improving people's health literacy and ability to be able to self-manage for themselves and work in partnership with their GP. So within our district we do have the integrated care program where we're trying to encourage people to enrol with and stay with a GP who will proactively manage their chronic long-term complex illness over an amount of time, and we partner with them when they require care in either the community or in the home. But I think managing demand is also about keeping people out of hospitals and opening up our models of care in new settings closer to home, as Graham said. And I think we've come a long way and we've got strong partnerships to be able to do that.
Thank you. So we have a roving microphone. There's a lady at the back there, if you'd like to ask your question for the panel.
Hi, just in regards to models of care, we need to realise that people don't get sick business hours Monday to Fridays.
Yeah, look, I'd certainly agree. Like, our hospital's got to be 24/7, and and a lot of our community services as well.
There's actually quite a lot of work going on at the moment about the weekend, because the one thing that we need to think more about is about what do we do on a Saturday and Sunday? Because in years gone by, you kind of work hard Monday to Friday. Our staffing drops on a weekend. If you're there on Friday night, you're still there Monday morning. So we need to be thinking more and more and more along the lines of we're a 7-day-a-week business, and how do we treat and get people home on a Saturday and a Sunday just as well as we do any other day of the week.
Thank you.
My
Next
name
question.
is Leslie, and I am the thorn in the side. As one of my members who's no longer alive, Jeff recognises my voice. A carer said to the late Judge Frank Walker QC, who was the president of the Schizophrenic Fellowship, which is one door, "I'm your nemesis." Neither did Judge Frank Walker or her know that they would never see each other again at a public function. I'm asking I remember attending a show in Park in Cumberland called Tricely Today, Mental Health in Italy. We do not want to live in an acute facility that has got 4 walls that's multi-storey. If mental health services to be delivered, it's to be delivered where we live. Everyone talks about the Westmead precinct. There is no talk so far of anything to do with psychiatric care for Western Sydney model. We seem to be the poor cousins or the people that you push under the door. I was on a train coming out from Central at a function in, I think it was Government House, and a gentleman literally collapsed and died in front of me on that train. I could see he was a rough sleeper. I could see he was a gentleman that required 16 to 24 hours supervised care. He elected to be homeless. I have lost one of my members in the middle of the street on New Year's Day due to a physical health issue, and he was in emergency less than 12 hours beforehand.
Okay, who would like to?
I'm saying what is happening to our community of mental health services. Jeffrey House, Jeff Lees had the honour to announce the sale of it in 2013, December. We have heard nothing about community health service delivery in the mental health spectrum since. I keep on asking, please, can you assure my community so I can assure them that we're not going to be kicked out on the streets or land in correctional services because we have no treatment available.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. The challenges of delivering mental health services in Western Sydney are considerable. There's a large population and it's growing. Something is happening for our young people who are experiencing far higher rates of distress than they used to, and presenting to our emergency departments as a way of accessing care. We also know, though, that things are shifting for us. So we know that treatments are improving, but it's about how do we get them to people. We do have a plan that we're steadily working at for the next 10 years. It hasn't yet been launched, but it is a companion document to the plan that was launched this evening, and we expect it to be launched as soon as possible. And it's a plan, a very comprehensive plan to improve mental health service delivery to the population of Western Sydney. We're not waiting for the launch of that plan. We have picked off many high priority areas. For example, in the last 12 months, with the assistance and partnership of the PHN, we've launched a number of navigator positions in the emergency departments, and their roles are to interact with young people when they come into the emergency department. They're terrible places for very distressed young people, to connect with them and their families and to really pull them out of the emergency department and into the care they need in the community. In terms of some of the other issues that you raise, it's a very long and complex discussion. There's no intention for people to be turned out into the streets with the reforms that are occurring in mental health. What we've actually managed to achieve at Cumberland in the last 2 years is we've actually managed to find places in the community for people with very long-term illness. What we're finding is that with very slow, patient work with people, addressing their fears and concerns and anxieties about going out into the community when they've been in an institutional setting for so long and connecting them up with their families, they're telling us that they appreciate the quality of their lives more. It is long, slow, hard work. We have to take it at their pace, but it is working, and there's no intention to rush those people out into the community. It does mean, though, that we have to be dedicated to following them for long periods of time. We have to accept that there'll be times when they might need to come back into hospital, and we have to be available and ready to help them in those circumstances. The things that we can do that actually, enhance that work is we are trying to grow our peer, our workforce, and you would know the power of lived experience to reassure people and give them a sense of optimism and hope for their future.
Who's actually got physical health issues because of getting
It is. It is. Mm. Yeah. There are community mental health services, but they are stretched, and it's not a lone warrior job, really. It's actually something that we need to connect up with the PHN, for example. But also, some of the really kind of important work that's happening at the moment is about how do you actually protect people by creating community safety nets. And that's the idea of making sure that there's talk about mental health, so people aren't frightened of it. They're not frightened to ask for help. More than 50% of Australians with mental health issues don't present for treatment because they're frightened, they don't know what it means, they don't know where to go. So there's a lot of work to be done at that level in communities about ensuring people recognise when they're in trouble and know that it's safe to present for treatment. We also need to do a lot more work with communities because everybody's got a role checking in with our neighbours and friends and family around how people are travelling and enabling them to have those conversations when they do need help. Yes, we do need to be connecting more with the primary care and private sector, and yes, we do need to be growing our public mental health services, and we have a plan for doing that over the next 10 years. It has to be incremental. That's the reality of the situation.
Thank you. Next question, third from the front. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's David. I'm a patient at Westmead, and I just want to stress the value of a great program that is running at Westmead Hospital, which is the cardiac rehab program there. And you've got a fantastic program that helps people like myself be able to self-manage when I go back into the community so that I don't need to come back so often to hospitals. But I guess I was concerned to hear when I was at Westmead recently that there seemed to be some changes in that program and I've seen all the building work and everything that's going on, and that there's a potential to relocate that program to perhaps a smaller location, maybe off-site, maybe not as applicable, not as great a place as to where they are now. And so that's very concerning because it's a very important program. And so really, I want to let you know that I found that program to be hugely valuable in a time where I had great uncertainty after my cardiac arrest and heart attack. And the staff there do a fantastic job, and I think it's really important to support them in doing that. I get that there's a whole lot of competing priorities, with administration and buildings and patient care and emergency departments. There's a huge balance, and it's a huge challenge, and I know that that's something that you do well. But I just want to commend the program to you and to ask you to do whatever you can to support that program and maybe grow it across the region, because it really does help make a difference to patients.
Okay, good question. So well done. You've got a great program, but I guess the underlying question there is, are you changing the funding model? Are you moving them out of the facility that they have?
I would love to be able to answer that question now, but I have absolutely no idea. So can we get back to you on that one and let you know what's going on with it? Because look, thank you for the feedback. It is a fantastic program and it works really, really well. Trying to maintain services when we are trying to build and expand hospitals is always a huge challenge for us, notwithstanding noise and dust and all the bits and pieces, but trying to create space where we can provide good care whilst we're building even better spaces is a massive challenge. I don't think most people will do it once in their working life if they work in hospitals, really. And so it's incumbent on, when we work with places like Health Infrastructure, who, back on the comment about parking before, tell me they build great car parks with hospitals attached. It's incumbent on us to work really closely with them and use their expertise in how we try to make sure that services aren't interrupted. And if they do, and sometimes they have to be, that it is absolutely minimised so we get the best outcome. So when they move into the new space, it's an even better area. So I can find out for you about what's happening with that service. But
I just appreciate
Thank you. We'll take one more question from the floor, and then we have some social media questions. So please, yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Caroline, and I'm a consumer in this health district. I just want to ask a question. What hit the news last week regarding the bullying in Westmead ICU? So, especially now that it's been stripped of its training accreditation. So my question is, what's being done about it?
So that'll be me again. There is a huge amount of work being done at the moment. There's a very, very complex process that we need to put in place to address it. And it is being addressed from the Minister, where the Chair and I went in and had a conversation with the Minister last Friday, through the board level, through the exec level, and all the way through the system. So we have an overarching group that is looking at it that's led by me, that has board representation, that has independent intensive care specialists on it, that has the head of our Safety and Quality Committee on it, local management. So there's a complex group that has good overarching knowledge that's overseeing it. There's a whole host of work we're doing there. We're working through the day-to-day of a couple of different things. First of all, we have to look at how do we continue to run the service. Secondly, we have to look at how do we continue to safely have staff coming into that service and patients coming into that service. Thirdly, we have to understand and pull it apart, because whilst the report identified that there's bullying in that area, and there is no question from anyone that there is work that we need to do on culture, and it's, as a matter of fact, it's significant that we need to do across the whole system. We need to really dig down to what that means. And so there's a component of work we're doing to try and understand that. We've got some independent experts coming in and working with us in that regards. We've got another independent expert working with us just to make sure that our quality is not being impacted by it. And when we've reviewed all the outcomes and indicators for us, our intensive care unit actually is one of the best performing ICUs in Sydney. So we need to make sure that that's the case. And then we need to make sure that on an individual basis, when we're talking to people who have been affected by it, that we have a pathway to resolve that and work through with them. So there's a very complex, comprehensive process that's in place that goes from one-on-one discussions through systemic views, through an audit of quality and safety, through an audit of independent expertise to get to the bottom of it, because we have to, as an organisation, understand and accept that no longer can we relate to each other in the ways that we have been. And it's not, it's shown up in ICU, it's not exclusive to ICU. So we need to make sure that as a system that we say enough is enough, and they need to see me telling them what is the standards that we set, and they need to see me role modelling those standards and telling everybody else this is what I expect of everyone in this place. And unless and until we get to a situation where we treat everybody, whether it's a staff member or it's a patient, like it's a member of our family standing in front of us, we are not in a good enough space, and that's where we need to keep working to get to.
Thank you. Just actually following on from that, probably the opposite end of the extreme on social media, Namita Biswal is asking, what are your plans to attract, develop and retain key staff, high-performing staff within your health district?
So we've got some key staff sitting on either end of the panel. How about we ask them, what do we do to keep them?
That's a great question. As a junior medical officer, I guess one of the reasons why I chose Westmead Hospital were for the large amount of opportunities in both career development as well as the services provided. I wasn't quite sure what area I wanted to develop in when I graduated from medical school. This is around 4 years ago. So I thought Westmead would be a good chance or a good place to do that in. I graduated from Western Sydney University, so I also thought it'd be wise to give back to the community that I'd worked with as a student. There are lots of great services at Westmead which are kind of world leading, which I really enjoyed working with, and there are a lot of great staff there as well. Not just the staff, but also the patients. I find the personalities, the pathology, all quite interesting. So that's personally why I'd like to continue working in Western Sydney.
Thanks for the question. Look, there's a lot of great stuff happening at Western Sydney at the moment. It's been a great place to work for me. I was similarly a student at Western Sydney, a bit longer than Jeremy, a bit longer ago, and came back and worked there as an intern and have been there ever since. We are trying to do lots of innovative things to engage with the universities, part of the education and health and clinical care precincts, both at Blacktown as well as Westmead. And it's a real partnership between the university, and not just one university, it's multiple universities. Often universities think that there's one particular that's associated or affiliated, but we actually work with many educational institutions and we have students coming in regularly to the hospital clinical care environment. We've got innovation projects that they are a part of, and in fact I was just at a recent Sydney University student innovation projects where they were trying to work on various little projects and presented what they were thinking was the future for how Westmead might work in 2025, for example. The other part of what's happening in healthcare is the digitisation, and you'll see in the Year in Review book that you've got, which is a fantastic effort, Susan, and others who have collaborated on that, that digital health is a massive and really important part of where Western Sydney and the whole state, if not the whole country, is headed. And I think Western Sydney is going to become a real beacon for digital health, bringing lots of people who have an interest in that space to come and work and share and collaborate, and the Innovation Centre that we've talked about already. One thing I will add to the previous question and echo some of the comments that Graham's already made is that in terms of retention, we absolutely must denounce and stamp out any kind of bullying and make sure that we say this is just not the way we do business. And that has to be part of the way we're here as part of critical care. We have to, being an emergency physician, we're owning the problem along with intensive care and making sure that we support them in making the culture change across the district and not just making it about ICU.
Thank you. Just one other question from Facebook. John Dillian is asking, given that we all willingly hand over all our private information to Facebook, what are the plans of data sharing between Western Sydney Local Health District and other government departments? And do you see any future strategic goals from that kind of digital partnership?
I'll start there and maybe others may want to comment. We are actively looking to participate in many projects where patient data is safely and securely shared with the right people that need to look after the patient, and so the patients don't have to keep repeating themselves over and over again. But it has to be done safely, has to be done appropriately, and not have issues that we've heard about in the media where there's data leakage and exposés and that kind of thing. Some of the key partners in this have to be our primary health care networks, the PHNs, as well as the other hospitals. It's great that we can see data shared across Western Sydney, but we also need to be able to do it with our near neighbours like Fairfield Hospital and Bankstown Hospital and Ryde Hospital and amongst others. So there's lots of work that we do with eHealth that is going to be progressed in that way in the future. So eHealth, the ministry, the PHNs, patients, My Health Record, which is regardless of your personal views or what's been said in the media, is probably the best thing since sliced bread that's come to Australia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that as well. I actually think in Western Sydney we're fairly strong in this space in that we have such strong partnerships with our PHN, our Family and Community Services, that we already have got in place data sharing agreements where in principle we see the value of sharing data because we're dealing with the same clients. and that we're willing to share data. At this stage it is de-identified data, but it does help us inform what's happening across the whole spectrum from primary care through to the hospital services. The truth of it is all our systems are set up to isolate the data at the moment, and as part of integrated care that's one of the big challenges we have both at the state and at the Commonwealth level to try to address the privacy issues so that it's managed appropriately, but also to improve care, try to share data. In integrated care we have made some inroads in that we can now through our hospital Cerner systems view the shared care plan at a GP's practice. So there's functionality there where we can at least look at the shared care plan that's happening in primary care for the enrolled integrated care GPs. And we've also just been rolling out a new program that is in partnership with FACS, and that we will be sharing data with FACS, between FACS and health, for people that go through that particular program. So we are very much moving in that space, but it is around continuing to lobby for what is appropriate share of data to improve the outcomes for people.
Thank you. We probably have time for one last question if anyone from the floor would like to ask one last question.
Thank you. My name's Anne-Marie Christie. I'm a doctor and I have a practice in northwest Sydney, and I also live in northwest Sydney. The area where I live and work is one of the fastest growing areas in the whole of the state at the moment, with a lot of development. And the residents where I live have been waiting for many years for fair access to public health services. 5 years ago, the government went to an election promising that we would have a hospital in northwest Sydney. To date, we have no land allocated, no funding allocated, no announcement of the scope of the project or the services that are likely to be offered. I notice in the booklet today that it deserves one sentence of a mention. Is there a plan? If so, what is it and when will it be delivered?
I can't give you a definitive answer on is there a plan, a booklet on the shelf that I can pick up and give you now, and what it looks like at the end of the day. No, but what I do know is that they're working very hard at the moment. And when I say they, I mean the district is working hard, the ministry is working hard, and health infrastructure are working hard to try and identify where that would be and how we would do that. I don't know the timeframes. It is a work in process at the moment. There is a very, very strong commitment from government that this is going to happen and this is going to go ahead. There's just some process issues that we have to work through first, and so I know that's not the answer that you want to hear. But we need to make sure that we've got the process issues right, that we understand what we're doing, we understand that the services that we need to be provided, and where is the best location to do that, before we can actually sit down and draw up what a building might look like or what a space might look like. So there's still a little bit of time in front of us.
Thank you for your questions, and I just want to say a huge thank you to the executive panel. I think it's very rare in this day and age that the executive panel is as transparent as the group here at Western Sydney Local Health District. I think we should be very proud of their ability to come here and answer questions at random with no preordained idea of what they might have. So I think a huge round of applause to the executive panel for coming up here tonight. And obviously a huge thank you to you for asking such amazing questions that probably put some of my reporters to shame. So thank you.
Reiterating those remarks, thanks to the panel members, and John, thank you for your elegant chairing of it. Ladies and gents, that just about brings us to the close of our program. Our acting chief executive has spoken at some length about the pride that people have when they come to work in health. It is an inspiring place, and has also acknowledged the work that we're attempting to do to address some staff relationship and cultural issues. Occasionally, in such a complex business, the individual can get lost. We came across a corporate communications, which is our team. We had a wonderful story brought to our attention, a lady who's a cleaner at our hospital, and the lesson in her you extract from the simple joy and honesty and authenticity, but the light that she was able to bring into people's lives when they often felt vulnerable or disempowered, not at their best when they were with us.